Hi, welcome. Today we're going to make some cards with a football theme. It's that season. Football games on Friday nights, football games on Sunday, and even Monday. Football games throughout the week. Fall means football. So I was super excited to be able to make these cards using the Football in Motion and Best Game Ever stamps from Technique Junkies. Just going to show you a couple steps that I took to make this card. This is the Football in Motion stamp, and I'm going to angle it on a slim line card base. Now this base is probably around 3.5 inches wide, maybe a little bit less than that, and about 8.5 inches long. I start by using my embossing buddy, which is like a little bag full of powder. And when I do that, it helps to keep my fingerprints off of the panel. I'm using Versamark clear ink, and I'm using my Tim Holtz stamping platform to get a nice impression of this stamp. Now I'm going to emboss it with brown embossing powder, and I go ahead and just heat that with my heat tool just to melt that embossing powder. Okay, so now I have one football embossed. I'm going to head and apply another stamped with VersaFine ink Football in Motion to the top portion of my, it's turning into a slimline card. I have two footballs going in two different directions. And I go over it twice just to make sure that I have completely covered the stamp. I don't want to miss any of those pieces of the football. Technique Junkies has a sentiment stamp. It's called Best Game Ever. It goes very well with this football. This football is called Football in Motion. If you use my discount code at Technique Junkies, you can save 10% off your order. And for this panel, I'm using a piece of acetate just to make sure that I'm lining everything up correctly. This card would look good with the football and the sentiment on an A2 panel. Again, I used brown embossing powder, and I'm using my heat tool to cook that to make it nice and shiny and give it a little bit of texture on the front of my card. All right, I'm placing it back in the stamp positioner. I'm using my magnets to make sure it stays in the right place. Going over the top portion now with the stamping buddy. I cleaned off my football, and now I'm inking it again with Versamark ink, clear ink for embossing. Okay, and then we will just use the same color, brown, for the football. If you don't have brown embossing powder, you can use black. You can use any color that you like. You don't have to emboss it at all. So I would like to put a sentiment in between the two footballs. I'm going to go ahead and use the sentiment Best Game Ever, and I'm going to heat emboss it with the brown embossing. It won't fit on the card that I just made, but it might fit on the one slimline card that I made, because I made two slim lines and one A2. You'll see me doing the same thing with this stamp as I did with the footballs. Using my heat gun to heat emboss Best Game Ever. And this is my second slimline card, and I'm going to be following the same steps that I followed for my first slimline card. But instead of moving the stamp, I'm going to move my paper. After I heat emboss this football, I'm going to leave it where it is on the stamp positioning platform, and instead of moving the football, I'm going to move the paper. I forgot to mention, I used a stitched rectangle die to die cut my panels on my slimline cards. And you will see at the end of this video, I will have some still photos of the actual finished cards. So that's the sentiment. I used a torn edge oval die to cut that out and put that in the middle. Here's my A2 size card. This card was the one that my son gave my husband for his birthday. It is matted with gold on a black A2 card base with the sentiment "Hooray!" And that sentiment has a shadow, and it is actually three sentiments stacked on top of each other. The reason I did that was to give it some dimension, a little bit of interest, and that "Hooray!" is the focal point between the two footballs, which look incredible heat embossed. Next, we have the slimline card that uses two footballs going in either direction and "Best Game Ever" heat embossed in the middle, cut out with a torn oval die. I also used the stitch rectangle on the panel and on the matte layer, which is gold. So I was going for a Steelers theme here, black and gold. This next one also has the two footballs and the die cut word "Celebrate" with a black shadow and the yellow letters, and I cut that out 3 times to give it some dimension. And this again is a card that is black and gold for the Steelers. And my final slimline card features the "Best Game Ever" stamp and the two footballs. And I think they go very well together. I'm keeping with the black and gold theme and matted the panel and the mat. Actually used a die cut that is stitched rectangle to cut them out. I want to thank you all for watching my video. Please give this a thumbs up and leave a comment. If you're new to my channel, I would encourage you to join. I do lots of giveaways and I try to go live at least once a week. All right, thanks everybody. Have a hopeful day. Bye bye.